Today, we're diving into the work of Roy Fuller. Now, he was a poet who brought this really rare and vital clarity to the super complex world of 20th century Britain, which kind of makes him a voice we might need now more than ever. I mean, just think about it for a second. The world is just reeling from a massive war. Everything is changing. Who could possibly make sense of it all? Well, for a whole generation of readers, the answer was a poet named Roy Fuller. So who exactly was he? Roy Fuller was, a real cornerstone of British literature. He was active right from the end of World War II all the way up to his death in 1991. And get this, he wasn't just a poet. He was also a really skilled novelist and a sharp essayist, and people loved him for his incredible command of language and just his thoughtful, unflinching way of looking at the world around him. To really get Fuller, we've got to start in that post-war era. It was a time that just profoundly shapes his entire perspective, and of course, his poetry. You see, Fuller's unique gift was his ability to connect the small, intimate details of our lives to the huge historical forces that were unfolding all around. His poetry really became this incredible lens for understanding what it actually felt like to live through the aftermath of such a devastating conflict. And he built this foundation in his first major collection, which was called The Middle of the Way. It tackled these deeply human themes head-on, trying to find your identity, dealing with loss, that relentless feeling of time passing by. He wasn't just writing about big, abstract ideas. He was capturing the very real experience of navigating a world that felt confusing and honestly pretty fractured. Okay, and this brings us to his style. Because, you see, Fuller didn't just have important things to say. He had an absolutely distinctive way of saying them. His work is marked by this fascinating mix of qualities. He could be incredibly witty, but then turn around and be deeply emotional. He could be formally elegant with his words, but still be crystal clear. That meant his poetry was both super intelligent and immediately accessible, which is a really rare and powerful combination that just drew people in. The late 1950s were just an incredibly productive time for him, and you can really trace this rapid artistic development. In 1956, he establishes that post-war voice. Then, just a few years later, he's showing off his versatility, writing everything from sonnets to free verse. And by 1960, he's diving even deeper into these more abstract, metaphorical ideas. And this evolution is so key to understanding him. As he matured as a writer, he started leaning more and more into symbolic language. Metaphors, like the sea and the mirror, they became these powerful tools for him to explore that complex, often blurry line between our inner world and the world outside. But, the world doesn't stand still, and neither did Fuller's poetry. As he moved into the 1960s, his work started to reflect the new anxieties of a turbulent, almost revolutionary decade. I mean, you can see a really clear shift in his focus. His earlier stuff was all about reflecting on the war and the passage of time. Later on, it gave way to more urgent concerns, things like political turmoil, this sense of existential dread, and just that basic search for meaning in a world that felt like it was changing at a dizzying pace. A perfect example of this is one of his most powerful collections from this period called The Burning. It is just crackling with this intense, urgent energy that directly confronts the chaos of the era, exploring both personal and societal upheaval with this raw, incredible honesty. And what's so crucial about his later work is this idea of interconnectedness. For Fuller, your personal anxieties and the big political issues of the day, well, they weren't separate things. He saw that the struggles of the individual were a deep, undeniable reflection of the struggles of society as a whole. So what does all of this add up to? Well, let's talk about his enduring legacy and why he has such a lasting place in British literature. Honestly, he was so much more than just a writer. He was a mentor to the next generation of poets. He was a sharp social commentator, a true master of poetic form, and maybe above all, he was a writer of incredible emotional honesty. He was never afraid to capture the true, messy complexities of just being human. And ultimately, this is why he's still so important. Fuller's great talent, his genius really, was his ability to take these complex, difficult feelings and ideas and express them with a sensitivity and clarity that very few could ever match. That's what cemented his place as a major 20th century poet. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In our own, often chaotic and noisy world, there's probably a great deal we can learn from a voice like Roy Fuller's,
a voice that consistently chose insight over outrage and clarity over